Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Encounter program. My name is Mark Kimpland. I'm the pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church. We have a very special program with a very special guest with us today, and it's my pleasure to introduce Patricia Smith to the Encounter program. Patricia, welcome.
Thank you.
We're so glad you are here.
Thank you.
And we are going to spend some time today to talk about something you are very passionate about, and not only are you passionate about it, this area, this is, I have been here over the last year and a half, is so very passionate about Sky Lake.
Right.
And so we're going to spend our time, and I hope it's a blessing to all of you, because we have someone with us that has a deep history and a deep passion for Sky Lake. But before we dive into Sky Lake and such things, can you tell the viewers and those that are listening a little bit about you, your family, about being here in this area? Just tell us a little bit about you, if you would.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Endwell, New York, and I grew up in Johnson City. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a mother of a special needs daughter. I've worked with children most all my life, teaching Sunday school, working with the youth at church. I was an instructional aide and assistant to a speech therapist, and worked in the public school with deaf children. When New York State decided to mainstream deaf children, I was fortunate enough to be on the ground floor. And then I ended up working for 4 pediatricians and looking after babies. So through my church work and through the community, I have always been involved with children. It's been a blessing.
Oh, wonderful. And I know that they have been blessed because of that.
Thank
so
you.
that is wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about Sky Lake. When I came into the area a year or so ago, that, to me, it just was there. It was a buzz. People were talking to me about it. They were excited about it. Can you give me a little bit of the history, or your history, with Sky Lake? How did you get involved in that ministry, in that program that is so rich?
Right. I was very, very fortunate. At the time I grew up as a young child and as a teenager, my church was Sarah Jane Johnson, Memorial Methodist Church in Johnson City. At the time they had a wonderful, wonderful youth program, and a lot of emphasis was on the young people. So we were very, very encouraged to go to Sky Lake. Sky Lake had not been in existence that long. It was fairly new. The camps were rugged then, but they were wonderful, absolutely wonderful. My experiences were so wonderful that first year that I went. It cemented so much of what I thought and knew about God. It was just beyond, as a teenager, it filled everything. And so I come away in awe of what had taken place for me as a teenager.
Yeah, and so that was kind of your first entrance into Sky Lake in your teenage years, and forming those relationships and such things.
Right.
How many years during that time were you participating as a camper at Sky Lake?
I probably was only able, ages were different then.
Yes.
Camps were different then. So I probably only had, at that time in my life, 3 years. But it was 3 wonderful camping experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
3 years to learn and to share and to know God better.
Yeah.
And continue to find that walk. It cemented what I believed, but it started my faith journey.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
And that's its intention. That's the reason so many of our camps in the Upper New York Conference exist, is to do that, and they do a wonderful job with that.
Right.
So you are part of Sky Lake as a camper and such things in your teenage years and such. Now, what brought you back into the fold and such things?
Of course, my oldest daughter. I wanted for her what I had. Hoping that she would have the same experiences and feel the same things that I did. So I was very excited when my oldest daughter was able to go. And that was a wonderful experience for her. Almost the same as mine, not quite,
Okay.
but it was a different generation then. And there were changes. So, and there were more things involved in their lives at that time.
Yeah.
And then I had my second daughter, and then I was really, really concerned when my first daughter went, will my other child, my special needs child, my child that had mental disabilities and was a CP child, would she have that same opportunity? And that is what concerned me and gave me the hope that there would be a place for our children of that community, those special needs children at Sky Lake.
Okay, so you found yourself there then with your second
Right,
child,
right.
With special needs. What did you find as you were wanting her to be a part of that at whatever level and such things? What did you find when you started to look around and knock on the door at Sky Lake and say, hey, what's available?
When the flyers came out and they had, the pastors and the staff had worked to put special needs together, it was brand new.
Yes,
I mean, it was inventive. It was like, can we really do this? So Carol really was on the ground floor in so many ways. But the people were so dedicated to do something for that community of physically handicapped and mentally handicapped children that everybody just bonded together and put all of their vision and their dreams and what they had hoped for this community of people together. It was scary to send her the first time, to think as a mother that somebody else could do the chores and do the things that I had done every day,
yes.
and to give those over. Could it be done? Could I do it? Could I break away? And so I filled out that form and sent that in, and the experience was beyond anything that I could have imagined. She learned so much. Once the children get away from a mother that's overprotective, possibly, who does many things for them that they shouldn't do, they are in another atmosphere. For Carol, she had an opportunity to feel her own self-worth. She had an opportunity to do tasks that probably were not asked of her at home.
Sure.
She had the opportunity to see other children in the same environment and look at them and see herself in them. So they accomplished so much in 1 week. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really beyond almost what you would have expected that all of this could happen. I have to mention that at another time I had worked and worked for her to be able to take a shower, and the water was just, she never was comfortable in the shower with water coming down on her face.
Yes.
And the second year that she went to Sky Lake, Mom, the water came, and she was fine in the shower because some other young teenager was willing to try it.
Yes.
And got Carol to take a shower and not be afraid.
Isn't that great?
Probably the third year she was taught to tie her shoes. I worked endlessly on tying shoes.
Yes.
So Sky Lake plus as the years went on and she attended, she learned about God.
Yeah.
She learned about Jesus. She said excitedly, Jesus has come into my heart, Mom.
Oh, wow.
So the benefits that Sky Lake give our special needs children is almost beyond thinking at the time that it happens.
Sure. So it sounded like when she went to camp, Mom kind of went to camp too and learned some things without going to camp.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
that's
really
really
was.
neat.
It
Yes.
really was a special week
Yeah.
for a special child
Yes,
and a
yeah.
special mom.
Let me ask this, and this might be quite subjective. I'm just going to go back in history. What was it about the mindset, or what was it about the people, or that brought this need for the special needs to fruition, that kind of bubbled it up, because prior to that,
Right.
it didn't seem as if it was a necessity or a priority or anything.
Right.
Outside of the Holy Spirit, and
Right.
as we know that, but were there other factors that kind of led that
Well,
for them to understand that this is important?
I have always felt that the Methodist Church was always ahead of other things in many, many areas. If you get into our conferences and get into jurisdiction, we were always on top of things. We really were. Yeah. And so the church, the United Methodist Church itself, was looking at handicap conditions for the churches. And were the churches accessible? Could people get in there with disabilities? Were they ignored? Was the community of those people just almost shut out? And so the church itself was looking at themselves on how best to renovate some of the churches with stairs, and how can we get some of the people in. So there was more of an emphasis. And I always have to say this, the Kennedys did have a big part in the overall look of handicapping conditions. Yes. So we have them. Special Olympics finally broke through.
Yes.
And so with that, the church looked at themselves and said, hey, we have to do something about this.
Yes.
We have to make it accessible for persons with disabilities to get into our sanctuaries and into our churches.
Yes.
So Sky Lake opened that beautiful, beautiful camping area and did not ignore this other side of children that needed it as bad as the children that didn't have all these disabilities.
Right. Sounds like it was the perfect storm then. I mean, that the seeds have been planted nationally, politically, and locally to make that happen. And it's just refreshing for being a pastor 30 years in the Methodist tradition to hear the word progressive attached to the to the tradition that I love and such.
And there was a lot of dedicated ministers that had very, very busy lives, but were willing to take time out to sit down and work on this and see if it could become a reality. Fortunately for me, I was asked to be on a task force, which was absolutely wonderful, that they wanted parents take on the whole thing, and could we add anything to what they were planning. And so the design for Sky Lake took a lot of preparation, a lot of work, a lot of dedication, because they would need extra care.
Absolutely.
And I would be remiss if I did not mention the wonderful, wonderful volunteers of young people dedicated from all of our churches in the district to take on this. Without them, we could have not had Sky Lake. Today, we could not have it without the young people volunteering and taking care of all of the children.
Yes.
Both spectrums of the children.
Right.
And so that was wonderful too, as word got out. And as young people decided to do this and to give their a week or 2 weeks or a summer to take care of other children, whether it be handicapped or whether it just be wonderful, normal, rambunctious children.
You bring up a great point, because there must have been enormous amounts of groundwork and framework and foundation to do this. It's one thing to say, we need a camp for A, B, C, whatever that is, but when you're talking about special needs and the ratio between counselors and the kids and all, that's a whole different ballgame. That is.
And when Sky Lake was started, it was basically through, there were grants and there weren't things then, The state had not become involved in their early days, So it was a lot of work. And a lot, as I said, a lot of dedicated people. And so when word got out, then we found, and everyone found, children everywhere that needed this, not just locally. Children everywhere, outside of, I live in Johnson City and I lived in Endwell and close to Endicott, so we have Binghamton and the surrounding areas. But there were children in Deposit and Windsor and in Scranton. Our district and our conference was, so we needed all of those children to be brought in. And people traveled 2 hours to get to Sky Lake to
Right.
bring their children.
Yes, yeah. I remember we just got the information for this summer for Sky Lake and all of
Right.
the other camps and retreat centers that the Upper New York Conference has, and just looking at Sky Lake and to see where it's come from that brainstorming time that you were a part
Right
of
of it.
to, I think now it's 5 different special needs
Oh, it is.
experiences this summer alone,
Right.
which is wonderful. How does that make you feel?
And it's awesome. I mean, it's just wonderful because there again, a lot of dedicated people looked at, and everything is change. Change is not always bad. Change is good. We need change, and so as technology, as sports, as activities in schools have taken over. We still wanted children to have a Christian camping experience.
Yes.
And so the times demanded that they look at it and found that many areas could be improved. And maybe that just like in school, you're looking at a child as 3rd grade, too much for them. Maybe they needed to repeat that class.
Yeah.
Then not all retarded, mentally handicapped, physically handicapped children need to be put together. Maybe there were different camps for different needs.
Sure.
And so that was the wonderful
Yeah.
thing. We already had that title of special needs.
Yes.
So then they took that and divided some of that and looked at the children and what they could do and once they got there, they were amazed.
Yeah.
They were amazed, and they sometimes functioned better.
Yes.
And that atmosphere of freedom and love than they did in a closed encounter.
Sure. You know, it's the idea of adapting and evolving and all of
Right.
that. I had a conversation with the director through the conference of the United Methodist Church in the Upper New York Conference, Mike Huber, and it's just amazed me through the years of being a pastor how the camps and retreat ministries has evolved. Every year, it's different. They have to do something to stay on the cutting edge
Right.
and to reach those kids, even just to have scholarships available through the conference to get to kids that are in New York City that will never even get a glimpse of a camping experience if it wasn't without the United Methodist Church reaching out and assessing that and doing something about it.
That's right.
Doing something
That's
about
right.
it.
And I feel as Christians involved in a church community that there is no greater investment than you can make with your time and your monies to further a child, a young person, to realize the self-worth that they have and the reality of a life rich and living through God.
Oh, absolutely. There's truer words have been spoken, and I want to just share those that are listening and those that might be viewing and such things, that there are enormous needs at Sky Lake, and they can do so much more through contributions and gifts. And if the people would like to inquire about that, you can go right to the Sky Lake website, or you can even go through the website through the Endwell United Methodist Church. And the need is great, but the response and the call is great also.
Right.
So
Right.
let me ask this, Patricia, if I could. Let's say that there's someone viewing this at this time or listening on the radio to this broadcast and such that was in your situation, that has a child either with special needs or one that doesn't. What advice would you give them concerning summer camp at Sky Lake? They're pondering it. They're not sure, which way to go. Should they? Shouldn't they? Are there words of wisdom, nuggets of truth that you might be able to share with them to inspire them to move forward?
Well, one of the first things I would say is that the staff is so open to talk to any person of a child that's interested in going. They will more than gladly take the time to explain to them so that they have a confidence that their child will be taken care of, looked after, and especially for the special needs camp.
Yes.
But if you're sending your child for the first time, it is a scary thing.
Yes.
But they are so trained. The volunteers are trained ahead of time. A lot goes into working with a young person that's going to take. They have a ratio of maybe 2 children, 3 children with 1 staff person. And they're trained through the night. it's amazing that they can take teenagers. We don't give them enough credit to take on the responsibility of this. And so it was scary for me. Carol had never been away,
Yes.
only maybe to Auntie's house for overnight.
Yes.
So it was a very big step for me to take also. But I had the confidence, I did my homework, I looked into it, and I was confident that God would be there every step of the way, and He is. And so there's information they can get,
Yes.
and take a chance. Take a chance. You would never, ever, ever be sorry if you take a chance, because you're not only doing it for yourself, to see how your child can function in that atmosphere, you're giving them a chance to see other people like them. You're giving them a chance to find their self-worth. You're giving them a chance to function in an atmosphere that is different from what they know. And for children that are not special needs, there's just so much to offer them. The camps are just amazing that they offer them. So take a chance, step out. You will never be sorry.
Awesome. You know, the amazing thing about this whole camping program in the Upper New York Conference, that there are 6 different camps.
Right.
And over the course of a summer, thousands of children,
Right.
Adults, youth, will be going through those camps.
Right.
But what's amazing is that is a large scale on what they do, but each camper is significant,
Right.
and they treat each camper significant.
Right.
So I want to just kind of reinforce what you said, that if there are people that are listening to this that are on the fence, call Sky Lake.
Right.
Call the Endwell United Methodist Church if you'd like to, and we'll hook you up and get you
I would
to
talk to anyone.
Absolutely. You get the answers and the information to your questions, because even though there's thousands of human beings going through this camping experience this summer, each person is treated as a special individual, which I think is quite remarkable. So here we are in February of 2015, and we've heard about your vast history, your wonderful history with Sky Lake. Does camping still hold the same power, the same potential, the same spiritual enlightenment today in 2015 as it did decades ago, do you think, in your eyes?
Yes, yes, yes. And for the first thing that I would say is because God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And that's what holds it all together. It's still that rich, wonderful Christian camping experience that we need. It doesn't stop with children. I find myself every time, every opportunity that I get to still have a Christian camping experience and get to Sky Lake. It's always new. And one of the most wonderful, wonderful things is at Sky Lake you can look around and you can see God's hand in the nature. You can feel the sacrifice and the love of Jesus in so many people that have put Sky Lake together and built it to what it is today. And you cannot be there without feeling and knowing and experiencing the Holy Spirit, because it's all around. And so children get a taste of this. Adults embrace it. It's in every experience, every camping experience is just a little bit different than the one before. Whether and they offer many, many camping experiences for adults now. And they have Christian family camps that families can go. And they have a week where families can go with their retarded or special children. Retarded is an old name. They always correct me when I say that. But they have a wonderful week that a family can go to. And maybe that's the answer also, the first time that people are hesitant. That there is a time set aside when they can go themselves and with their children and see.
It's certainly generational. I have my daughter Lacey, who was in her late 20s, had probably gone to Casawaska, which is another one of the camps in the conference. for probably 10, 12 years. But that was the highlight of her summer. And she still says to this day, I want to get back there as
Yes.
a counselor.
Right.
I want to get back and give back.
Right.
And that's one of the great treasures of the
Right.
summer camping program, that you have all the ages. It's
Right.
intergenerational
That's
because
right.
their hearts were touched. They want to touch
That's
the
right.
hearts of others, and it just keeps
Right.
going.
Right. And some of the staff were, I could name several of them, that were young people when they went. And they are now ministry, in
Yeah,
ministry.
yes, yes.
And two of them are local. And it's a blessing. So there's just so much that comes out of a Sky Lake experience. And we are
Yes.
so very fortunate in this area, as everyone probably in other areas feel they're fortunate to have a beautiful, beautiful camp and lake and outdoors in their area that they can send young people and older people and all of us to.
That's a wonderful point. I mean, lives are changed,
Right.
and then it says lives are changed. People answer their call, whether it's the ordination or serving God in so many
Right.
different ways. I just recently read that our Bishop, Mark Webb, received his call early in life through
Yes.
a camping experience, which is amazing.
And it made me think of the letters that I have received
Yes.
afterwards, and the letters that Carol and the notes that Carol has gotten from so many of the counselors. And one of the counselors early on, I think it was Carol's 5th year that she went, wrote and told me that she was going into physical therapy because of working with the children. I had another one that told me she was going into social work, and that she was going to specifically work with individuals in the special needs camps. So it's been wonderful. And heard from several of the young men who were there also.
Yeah.
And those letters are precious to me,
Oh, yes,
especially when they involve taking care of your child that you don't think
Absolutely.
anyone else can take care of.
Not like Mama, right?
Right, not like Mother.
That's right.
That's a
right.
very, very big step.
Yeah. Patricia, I thank you so much for taking this time today, and your passion, your love, your grace for Sky Lake and the camping ministry is so appreciated. I certainly appreciate you sharing this time.
Thank you.
I want to share with those that are listening also, again, that if this has somehow touched your heart to either send a child to camp, or perhaps you'd like to donate to make a contribution to someone's life to send them to camp, please feel free to call and contact Sky Lake themselves, or if you'd like to contact the Endwell United Methodist Church also, we can help you with that. My hope is that your day will be blessed and that God will provide the peace that goes beyond our understanding as we live this journey of life together. Have a great day.